Bobby Lane's still after me. I'm telling you, ever since the one time I beat him at Toho, he never has forgot it. I swear, he honks the horn at my wife and scares her. Bobby Lane is after the Swindles, I can tell you. Guys, it is really good to be here. They asked me, and when we set this deal up, we started to get ready for it. Leanne said, you know, most of the keynote speakers, they wear a jacket. So she's looking around in our house for a jacket, and I said, I'm not most people. I don't wear a jacket. She's kind of laughed. I said, we built our whole career being who we are, and I'm not going to never be something that I'm not. I said, I'm country all the way down, from cornbread to collard greens to deer hunting to hot rods. I'm country. That's how I built my career. So I said, we do things the Swindle way, which is our way. That's one of the things when we come here to talk today, when I talked to Pat, he said, we're talking about controlling our own destiny. That's one of the few things in fishing that most people don't ever talk about. You can get the best seminar, you get the best jig seminar in the world. You can get the best deep cranking seminar in the world. Most people never tell you how to be successful in your business. You put it in perspective. There's 9 Elite Series tournaments a year, 1 Bassmasters Classic. I got 10 chances a year to win. Out of 365 days, there's 10 days of that 1 year that Gerald Swindle can be titled the winner. What am I doing those rest of the days? What those 355, what I'm going to do, take off? You're going to preparation, you're going to build your brand. I tell people, if you base your career off 1 win, you will be gone like the wind, because there's a winner next week at another organization. There's a winner next week at another organization. There's another news story out the next week, and you slowly get washed under. When I started back in the day, there was only 6 or 7 tournaments a year, and it was spread out over a year. So a win, you might could walk it 4 or 5 months before it went away. You can have a championship on Monday and another championship the next Monday. Who won this week is irrelevant on social media the next week because he's been scrolled past. So it didn't take me long in my career to say, if I'm going to become relevant and stay relevant, it's going to be how I run my business. I'm going to focus on winning because I despise losing. Now, that's coming from a guy who's never won an Elite Series event. I'll tell you straight up, I finished every place in the Elites you can ever finish twice. The only time I won, I lost by a dead fish penalty. It cost me 7 ounces. I lost by 1 ounce of Dean Rojas. My wife just said, well, let's just stop and get a 6-pack because that done it in right there. You won and it went back away. I went back to Toledo Bend the next year, lost a tiebreaker for 10 grand on a dead fish again. In 1 physical year, I lost $110,000 on Toledo Bend because of 2 dead fish. I said, Tripp, put them in the cooler. Because my wife about to eat the most expensive meal she has ever had. If I'm going to lose 100, we're going to eat 100. So I started thinking that even set more in it. You can't control all those variables, but I can control how I run my business year-round. You can't get out of fishing and go home and stay gone 4 months and pop back up and tell your sponsors, hey, I'm out hustling. They know you're not. You can't leave. You can't never shut that door and turn the business off. You have to stay in a business mind. It doesn't mean you have to create content every day. One of the things that I thoroughly think happens in this industry that I see, and I'm going to talk a little bit rawer than most people. I'm going to say what's on my mind and heart. Some people may disagree with it. I believe people get on Instagram, social media, and they build a false life. Dave Mercer asked me in his podcast, he said, what made you decide just to say it like it is and do who you are? I said, because I did not want to disappoint you when you met me. And he started laughing. I said, if I build myself up to something I'm not, and you meet me in public, you're going to be disappointed. So early on in my career, I said, be who you are. You country. You can't spell. If y'all ask me to go fishing on Wednesday, I'm going to text you back and say it's going to be Thursday. I cannot spell Wednesday. I don't care. Spell check can't find it. God's honest truth. My wife will tell you. I ain't going to do it. But you know what? I don't hide behind it anymore. I said, I'm going to be who I am. That way when I go somewhere, they're going to say, yeah, he's just as crazy as I thought he was, or he's just as dumb. Social media actually wants you sometimes to build a pretend life. Show it off. But let me tell you something. You can only live that so long. If you have a long-running career, people are eventually going to have an opportunity to read you and know you. So you can only fake it until you make it so long. Do not be afraid to be who you are. That's the number one thing when you talk about controlling your own destiny. Never apologize for who you are or where you come from or how you got here. When I first started, The gentleman sitting in here that actually gave me my first boat deal I ever had is Rick Pierce. Most people don't know that. He put me in a bass cat. He taught me a lot about be who you are. It's what you want to be. I learned so much from the 1 year I was with Rick, because the next year I had an offer. I was scared to death because I didn't have no money. I come from framing houses. $10 an hour, barely getting by. I'm talking about a guy to eat some beanie weenies, not make-believe beanie weenies. I'm talking about them real gas station beanie weenies that make your stomach blow up. I go to Rick and I said, Rick, I got an opportunity to get a boat and a truck. And he shook my hand. I never will forget this. He said, I wish you the best. If you want to come home, the door's still open. And I promise you I could call in tomorrow and say, Rick, things have changed. I need a home. But what I learned that day was the most uncomfortable conversation I'd ever had to have as a young man. I had to have like a man. I see young people get with somebody and they stay with a sponsor a year, and somebody comes along and dangles $200. I'm leaving. I told Rick when I went to him, this is a substantial amount of money. This is more than I make in a year. He said, I wish you the best. Be careful when you got your sponsors and you start your career. It's how fast you move around. If you want to burn the bridges in this industry, always wear your life jacket and your kill switch, because you're going to have to swim home, I can tell you. If you think I don't know a lot of people in here that's worked for companies that I still know that I work with, this is a very small industry. So that social media and building these platforms that truly may not be who you are, people in this industry will figure it out. There's nothing wrong with saying who you are. I tell people that all the time. I talked to Cliff Pace one time, and Cliff said, gee, he said, I don't know how to be on camera. I don't know what to say. I said, Cliff, you ever thought about just being you? He said, he kind of looked at me like, because Cliff's very intimidating. I think he's very funny, but people think he's very intimidating and sometimes almost harsh. I said, just get on stage and tell him you're a backer-chewing redneck from Petal, Mississippi that can carve a rose out of a piece of lead. I said, try that one day. I said, because ain't that what you are? He said, absolutely. I said, don't run from it. Own it. You can take your brand, you can take the person that you are and build it. Or you can try to create a character and build it. Can you add to your character? Yes. Is it important to keep reinventing yourself as your career moves along? If you're in your own, like trying to control where you want to be? Absolutely. To do that, you may have to go, I always say you need to do some isolation away from people, a little bit of separation. My biggest thing, and I always talk to people about, because I have parents come to me and they say, my young children and my high school kids getting into fishing, what do you think it needs to do? I said, stay outside the industry. I said, there's 150 puppies eating in this same bowl, and every one of them goes hungry every day. Do not be afraid to go somewhere that they don't know nothing about fishing and say, let me tell you what I can do for you. The conversation when you have with sponsors is, let me show you what I can do for you. We call this the fisherman's handshake. That's the fisherman's handshake. I need this and I need that. You turn that hand up right and say, hey, let me tell you a little bit about myself. This is what I do, and I think I can do this for your company. And I'm so confident in myself that I can change the direction and help your sales. And this is going to really throw you off. I'll be willing to work a year for free, and you double it down on at the end if it's right. Anybody here ever done that? Because I have. I've had companies say, we just don't know. I said, give me a year. Give me a year. People say, I don't like to work for nothing. I don't either when framing houses sucked. You know what drives me is that hot sun and that felt slipping out from under my feet, seeing my brother fall off a house and my uncle and get all broke up, and I start thinking, I'll work for free. I'll go to the boat shows. My wife laughs because my nephew, which everybody knows now, I try to help my nephew, and I was telling him stories about, I said, son, when I got started, like, didn't nobody around here know me or they didn't care who I was. I said, I'd go to the local boat show, the Birmingham Boat Show, go down outside and help the dealer wash the boats. I washed them boats and cleaned them up, and as soon as we got done, I put on my dress shirt and go in there and stand by the boats. That dealer never even sold me a boat. I just want to show this dealer, if you're looking for somebody, I'm going to be here. I was going to be willing to work first. In this industry, when people's trying to further their career, we got so many people that don't want to work until they get paid. Now, are you going to get burned some in this industry? We all are. But there's nothing wrong with saying, let me show your company what I can do. Let me try to help you. Go to these people with a plan. I have guys all the time say, man, I sure would like to get on with Zoom Bait Company. I said, what can you do for them? And they just stare at me. I said, because that's what they're going to ask you when you get there. What can you do? Have a plan on what you intend on doing, what your goals are. You know, there's 1,000 resumes handed to sponsors with your credentials on there. I tell all the young kids, work so hard that when you walk in that door, you don't have to be introduced. Then you're controlling your own destiny. But I said, most of the time when you sit down with a sponsor, all you do is lay out the great things you've done. They've seen that 100 times. But they have very few people that lay that down and say, let me tell you what I think I can do for Mercury Marine today. That I'm going to work with this hospital. I'm working with a school. I'm helping feed the hungry. You're like, gee, that ain't got nothing to do with fishing. Exactly what I'm telling you. It ain't got nothing to do with fishing. But you may be able to turn a community around wearing a Mercury hat. Somebody's going to recognize what you're trying to do. There's too many people in the industry that think we're going to make a great salary and feed our family on a jig sponsor. You're not going to do it. You are not going to do it. The biggest advice I have for young kids is find you a pro and buy his boat and motor. Go buy it. Don't worry about that right now. Catch them good enough that they know who you are, and they'll get you a boat and motor. But right now, they got people lined up. So the energy and the time that you're wasting chasing something that's not ready for you, the company may not have any use for you at this time, spend it doing something else, totally outside the fishing world. My whole deal, I learned the biggest lesson in life. I did a sizzle reel for a show, a reality show. They put it on YouTube, and just out of the blues, a company reached out called Dude Wipes. They emailed my wife, and it's like, hey, we want to talk to your husband. I'm like, what? Who's Dude Wipes? And they're like, we watched a story about you doing a maintenance wipe in the middle of the day, and we think you're our guy. So I'm 14 years in with them, with Dude Wipes, and it's very lucrative. All over an email and a video. You know why? Because they seen something. They didn't know anything about fishing. They seen somebody that could do something for their company. So I tell anglers, I say, you think those opportunities are not out there, but most of the time we're not looking for them. We as anglers, we go about chasing sponsorships like most of us try to fish now, looking straight down at live scope. We're turning their trolling motor. So here's what I see guys as they navigate through the industry. Oh, no sponsor there, no sponsor there. And I'm like, why don't you do this one time? Start looking all the way around. Because most of us have people in your community who have a vested interest in you that would probably pay you before anybody. But most people won't go locally. They think they need to go get the Rapalas or the Strike Kings or the Garmins right off the get-go. I didn't, Bobby, did you start with all that? I've heard your story. You didn't start with anything. That's what I tell people. I said, what's on the front of my boat now is 24 years in the making. I wish you could have seen the front of my boat when I was framing houses. 3 rods, never wore a t-shirt, cut off blue jean shorts and sawdust all over me. People said, did you always know you want to fish? I said, nope, but I knew framing houses sucked. You want to know my business plan? There you go. Dead true. My wife would tell you that. He said, I hated framing houses so bad that the first time I won $300, I'm driving home, and I said, I've won $300? That boy, Mr. Johnny McCombs, he said, yeah. I said, we going to get rich. I said, if they'll pay us to fish during the week, we going to get rich. I'm the guy sometimes at Bass probably don't like to say this, but growing up, I didn't have cable TV till I was 23. I'd never watched a Bassmaster show. I didn't know who Denny Bryer was. I didn't know who Rick Clum was. My dad got Bassmasters magazine, but I wasn't a great reader. When I graduated Locust Fork, I graduated with honors. They were so honored to see me leaving. My report card was it was like you watched an old version of Baywatch. It was straight D's all the way down. They wanted to see me get out. So when I left school, I didn't have a business plan. So that's my thing when I talk to the young anglers, older anglers, they say, I need a business plan. No, you don't. Let me tell you what you need. You need a whole lot of want to. You got to want to. You got to want to do it when they tell you you can't do it. You got to want to do it when it don't make any sense. Because if old me could look back at young me, it didn't make any sense. You're going to do all this for a chance to fish. Yep. That was the difference. I said, I'm willing to do anything. The last back surgery I had, they laid me on the table and the doctor said, if I get you back up and walking, he said, I'm probably going to need you to lay off that boat. And I said, Doc, let me tell you something. I said, I'm the only patient in that entire room out there that's willing to die to go back to work. I said, see, we ain't the same. I love what I do. So if you'll cut that bone out where my leg will move, I'll do the rest. I was not going to be told, you're not getting back in the boat. That's 24 epidural blocks in my spine, 2 shoulder surgeries, 7 bone spurs, 5 bone spurs. Both collarbones burn off. I've had PRP injections in every arm. I don't know if y'all have ever had that, every joint. Shoulder, knee, stem cell in my left knee, 5 knee surgeries. You think I'm down for quitting? Try me. That's the way you control your destiny. Because you don't quit. You don't quit when you should quit. People say, what makes a great junk fisherman? I said, a dude that hates framing houses. They said, how do I write that? I said, write it. I hated framing houses so bad that at 2 o'clock, if I didn't have a bass, and I knew I needed one more to get a $10,000 check, I hate to say it like this, but I'd be damned if I'm not getting paid. I'm going to find something. I'm going to catch that bass. I'm going to get this check, and I'm going to go home. So after years and years of hating framing houses and not having a backup plan, all of a sudden people say, boy, you're one of the greatest junk fishermen in the world. I'm like, no, I really ain't that good. That's why I become a junk fisherman. See, I'm just trying to survive. Because it didn't take me long to realize there's only so many winners a year. But they pay 50 places in every check. Every tournament, 50 places. So now we got 9 tournaments times 50. Anybody see where I'm going with this? I was the first guy at Bass to ever get $1 million and never won an event. I said, y'all think that's something? I'll do it again. Now I'm the first guy to ever get to $2 million before he won an elite. I ain't about eating the whole bowl at one time. I'm about getting mine when it gets there. In fishing and in the industry and as sponsors in your career, you have to be willing to take little chunks out. So many people, I've had anglers tell me, I'm not doing a boat deal or I'm not going to do a truck route for under 100 grand. I said, well, I hope you enjoy driving a white truck because that's what you're going to be driving. Because they ain't everywhere. But I've had anglers tell me that. I'm not doing it for less than that, or 50,000. I said, then you don't hate framing houses. You don't. Because see, when I got started, I'd have done it for a T-shirt and some Fruit Loops. You know why? I just wanted you to give me a chance. I've had anglers tell me I just can't get the doors to open. Gee, I try, and I'm working on my career, and I want to build everything, and the doors just don't seem to open. What do you do? I said, kick them down. Kick them down, brother. What? I mean, you talking to me like you give up. Did you think there wasn't struggles in everybody's career? Not everybody rolled out on the Elite Series with American Express credit card. They didn't. That's a sad story that people's like, they build up in these young guys' heads. Well, his daddy had a lot of money. I can tell you from the old heads that's there, the old G's that I fish against, there wasn't but 1 or 2 of them come from money. Now, I know some that were male dancers, that laid tile, that were sheetrock finishers. I know some guys that come up the hard way, but they wasn't going to be told no. I think in today's society, when we're looking at sponsors and building a portfolio, it's so easy to say no. It's so easy when somebody says no, it just breaks you. Well, I'm not asking again. I said, y'all wasn't at the junior high dance with me because I asked every girl in there to dance. You think no affected me, but the one that did, I had a good time. And I didn't tell, when we went home, I didn't say, oh, my buddies, they told you no 22 times. I'm going to say, did you see the girl I danced with? She was beautiful. No does not affect me like it should affect normal people. If you tell me no, it's fine. Motivation. I had an uncle sit at break at framing houses. Career was young, man. I was digging. I was trying to get a hold of something. Once again, I had no plan. I didn't go to college. I dated a girl who went to college, but when they find out you going to college with her, they'll kick you out. So I literally had no marketing, nothing. And I'm like whittling this, like trying to trim this out and figure out where I need to go in my career and like, how do you land on this and how do you land on that? And I take a break with my uncle framing houses. We're burning logs. He said, I just went and fished my first open. And I finished, I think it was 300 guys, and I finished like 316th. That's dead honest truth. I finished, it was at New York, and I finished butt naked last. Like I think I beat one guy, and he might have got the flu or something. Like literally, I finished last. And I drove all the way back home through the night because I had to go back to work. So I did a 21-hour drive home to get back to work. And the first thing my uncle told me was, told you didn't belong. I said, let me get my notepad of life out and write that down. And still to this day, when I see that uncle, that's what I think about. See, you ain't going to tell me that I ain't. No, it's like you just took fire and just threw in my soul. That, old man, I'll do whatever I can in life to prove you wrong. So that's the question I want to ask some of you guys and ladies. If you had a chance to do something, would you be willing to do all that? And here's the other question. Would you be willing to do all that and still fail? Because I was. I said, I'll do whatever I have to do in my life to chase the dream. I don't have to catch it. Oh, I want to. But if I fail at that, I'm going to be good with it. My mom said, you need a backup plan. I said, Mom, my backup plan is to execute plan A. I'm going to fish. She said, you're daydreaming, son. She said, you need something else to do. They had that talk with me when I decided, hey, I'm going to fish. I'd won a couple of bass boats in the same year. I done got me some money. I said, I'm fishing. That was the first ever FLW Walmart event held on Beaver Lake. At that time, was the largest paying cash event ever held. It was $150,000. I put my money up, got on the waiting list. My mom was like, oh, God, you fix to spend how much money? I was like, it's like $3,500. She said, baby, you can't do that. They called me 3 days before the tournament, said, you're off the waiting list, come up. I drove to Beaver Lake. This is the things that you never hear about. I had a mechanical issue on day one. Couldn't use my boat. Day two, couldn't use my boat. My best friend said, take my boat. I'm not into money. I went on to win this tournament, won $150,000. Come back to the same bank that I banked at where the girl took my $400 check from Franklin Houses every week and slid it in that box, and I told her, I said, I want my sucker. That's exactly what I told her. I want my sucker. Because see, this time I'm not putting 400. I'm putting the most money I ever seen in here. And at that time, that was a game changer for me. I realized no matter what the odds are, what it looks like, or how bad it looked during that tournament, you can still win. You can still achieve what you want to achieve. It's just people are always talking about, I've exhausted all efforts. I had a young man come to me one time with his mom, and he was like, he's just out of college, and he was trying. I'm going to give him this. Now, he was hustling. You're going to hustle in this business. We have a saying in the fishing business, you're going to be a hoe or you're going to be po. You can write that down. In the fishing industry, you will be a hoe or be po. You will work for multiple people. You will do things in this industry that sometimes you might not enjoy, but they have to be done. You're going to go to shows. You're going to do things that seem like they don't matter. It seems like nobody's watching, but they're watching. So when I talked to this young man, I said, son, let me give you, because he wanted some advice. I said, let me tell you a few things that I think I see nowadays that bothers me. I said, the next time you go fishing, take your iPhone out and leave it at your mama's house. I said, because see, if you're fishing for this, and y'all know where I'm going with this, if you're fishing for them thumbs up on the gram and them thumbs down and them TikToks, you ain't fishing because you love it. So you put that in the box and you shut the lid on it, then you're fishing because you love it. When you're fishing because you love it, you're willing to work harder, you're willing to do more, and you don't care who sees it. So I told the young man, I said, I want you to work when nobody's looking. Now follow me on this. I said, work when nobody's looking. What did I talk about the about 355 days? I need to be working when ain't nobody looking. I need to be finding a way to stay relevant in this industry somehow and grow my sponsorship base or grow my brand. I said, work when no one's looking and work when you think nobody cares about it. I said, I played all three sports as an all-county athlete. Had a chance to play college basketball and baseball. Walked away from it to go to work. I said, the only people that I watched on the court that I was really worried about was the ones that went and shot basketball when nobody was up there. I said, worry about the kid who runs the fastest when the coach ain't looking. You ever been on the field with somebody like that? They be running sprints like ain't nobody. I'm like, this guy's he's on like sport mode. But then you realize you work when you think no one's looking. That's the guy I'm worried about. I worry about the kid who's fishing in the 17-foot boat with the kicker motor out there, and he ain't worried about Instagram. He ain't doing a sunset photo with 9 pictures. He might post one, and he might not. The first thing I taught my nephew when he started going fishing with me, the phones belong in the box. When we out here, we out here. You in the boat is no different than that phone. You put that in the box because you out there. When you're in the sponsor industry and you look around, I want you to look vast. Don't live scope your whole career. Don't walk down the booths at ICAST and do this. You make you a plan outside. Make you a note to say, I want to reach out to 6 or 7 different brands that have nothing to do with fishing. Nothing. Matt Lee come to me one time, he said, things is getting tough. He said, I don't know what I'm going to do. Matt's a type 2 diabetic, honey, type 3. I said, you called the diabetic company? And he just looked at me. He goes, I said, have you called the diabetic company? I said, son, they got millions, and you a prime candidate. He looked at me. I said, you trying to eat in the little bowl. Go eat in the big bowl, because now can you not only help people? He said, never thought about that. Every one of you sitting here in your business, whether it's to be a professional fisherman or a better professional guide, there's something in your wheelhouse somewhere that you're not thinking about where you can be a benefit to a company in a way that they've never seen. It's the ideal way of thinking. So many anglers think narrow-minded. They won't think outside the box. I'm not afraid of it. I've told people before, I've made jokes about it. That people say, you shouldn't say that. I said, let one of them Viagra companies call me. You got enough money, I got all the jokes you can hear in one day. See, I ain't too proud. If the money's right, we going all night. We going in right here. I said, but you got guys that are not willing to take a chance on something outside the box. The only thing in my entire career I've ever shied away from was an alcohol sponsor. And I had the offer landed, and the only reason I done it, and my wife be my witness, is because my mom asked me not to. She said, there's too many kids in a small town to look up to you. You can't do it. She said, quote unquote, what are the women of the church going to think? So what did I do? I called them back. It was Crown Royal. I said, I can't do it. It's a $100,000 deal. That's before I won AOY. You think that wasn't a lot of money? I said, I can't do it. They said, why not? I said, it's a long story, but it's my mom. The alcohol deals come back around again with a lot more money. Still won't do it. Still won't do it. But anything else, I don't care. Like, I'm willing to listen. When a sponsor walks up to me or a potential sponsor said, Gerald, you have a minute, I'd like to talk to you about something. Unless I'm pressed to catch a plane, I'm going to say, yes, sir, tell me what you got. I'm going to listen to everything and every option. And I want to weigh it out. And I'll tell you right now, when I talk to someone now, I don't say, I'd never ask them right off the get-go, what's the money like? I say, what do you expect of me? And what would I have to do to over-deliver? So my wife and I have a small business philosophy because it's just her and I. And everybody knows Lulu. Lulu's hustle. She's the one behind the scenes. So we have some running jokes in our company business that you have to brush your teeth before 9 o'clock and you can't work in your pajamas all day. That's 2. But I said we have this thing we say, we're fishing and marketing and business and life. You're either building a new relationship or her and I are trying to mend an old relationship. That's our business philosophy. I want to build a new one and I want to fix an old one. Because I don't ever know when I'm going to have to go back and cross that bridge. You never know when you're going to have to go the other way. And we always tell each other that. We don't ever want to get on that bad side. You try to do everything. Now, do you eventually get somewhere and you get in a bad place? Yes. But each year we try to build more relationships. I mean, I see people coming to ICAST and they're passing out resumes. It's the worst place in the world to get a sponsor. It is the worst place in the world. It's like going to the biggest strip club and think you're going to get a date to the prom. It don't work. Those people there are to sell lures. They are there to write POs for next year's orders, because if they don't, then Michelle don't have a marketing budget because they didn't meet the sales on the initial when the big box stores was there. So when you talk to those young kids, I'm like, hey, it ain't that they're being rude, but if you walk in to the Sunline booth and they're dealing with Academy who's going to write this giant order, that's part of his marketing budget. It ain't that he wants to ignore you. If he can't complete this task, there won't be any you. So I said, understanding when you go to ICAST, you are there to help that sponsor. You are there to ask them how I can help you put videos out, how I can do things that people need to see your new product. But so many times it's misconstrued that people think we should go to ICAST to get sponsors. It's really hard to do that. Mark Copeland, how many times at ICAST have somebody handed you a resume? How many times have you had time to go through them at ICAST? It's not that the companies are being rude. If they don't get the job done that day, he doesn't have a budget. So I tell these young kids and college kids when they come out, when you go to ICAST, work on what? Your relationship. I know a gentleman who went to ICAST, hung out, went down to the bar to have a drink. Two guys sit down by him. They got to talking fellowship, told a few jokes, high-fived. They liked each other. The two guys leaned over and he goes, we're the purchasers for Walmart. We'd like to work a little deal with you. The first deal was worth about 200 grand. He never passed a resume out. He never did anything but sit down and have a drink with two guys that he didn't know, and they started a relationship. You're going to build those relationships, and you're going to mend your old ones. Because the more you network, the more you see. And this particular event right here, the MPAA, you come here, you're building your relationships. You are networking. You're getting to know the brothers in the sports, the sisters in the sports that you relate to, that have the same passion. And somewhere down the line, you make it help each other. The problem I've always had in this industry is the old hands don't ever help the young hands. And I've tried to be that guy that's different than that. I have opened up some things and told some things I probably shouldn't have. I mean, I was 2 years into Facebook monetization before anybody in the Elite Series anywhere knew that you could get paid for Facebook. And they're all going, work on your YouTube. I said, you do that. Keep working on that. Why would I build 100,000 when I've already got 350? And if this number pays bigger than that number, I know something you don't know. So what do you do in your career? You constantly expand your knowledge of what you're trying to do and how to grow your brand. Our Facebook, I tried to learn Facebook when it first come out. People was like, man, you like Facebook? No, not really. It's part of our life. It's what we do. But I had to learn it. I downloaded it. She's like, you're going to suck at this. Yeah, probably so, but I'm going to learn it, because if this is going to be part of fishing, then we have to stay relevant. Then it became Instagram. Then it's YouTube. And then out popped TikTok. And everybody's like, I don't know if TikTok, I tell you what, there ain't nothing in bass fishing about TikTok. Y'all go to TikTok tonight and just hashtag Mercury Marine, hashtag bass fishing, hashtag Bassmasters. See how many times it's been tagged. Then go to Instagram and do the same thing and tell me which one's important. Now the problem right now is a lot of the sponsors, in their ability to keep up with it, they haven't had something in place, so they don't really know the value of it, but they know it's valuable. So guys are saying, well, you're doing all that and you're really not getting any reward for it. But if you start that game late, you're not going to catch up. So Facebook, when it comes out, it's important to be thinking outside the box. I want to try to learn it. So I just get on there and mess around. I finally said, hey, I don't know anything about it. I'm just going to post what I like, and if people like it, fine. If they don't, fine. But you try to keep it mixed up. I think Facebook is a great tool for you, and Instagram, but you always have to know this, and I'm a prime example of it. You've got to be careful what you put on there, because it don't go away, and it don't take long to get in trouble. Big time. Trust me, I know. So you have to be careful, but it's one of your biggest tools. It's one of the ways that people get to know you. But most young children, kids, doesn't understand the power of that when you post it. I didn't. Forever. I didn't understand the power of social media until 5 and 6 years down the line, when companies are looking up going, hey. I told her, she's like, we were riding down the road one day, and she's like, I am so glad that you didn't listen to me and give up on doing that crap, because she said, I hated it. But it didn't take long when we got multiple circuits, multiple TV shows in the winter every week. The biggest thing I have to be relevant daily is social platforms. And if you work your butt off, you can have a social platform that actually you could out-promote and out-prevail the league you fish in. Now, they don't want to hear that. But then you realize you've built a business for yourself. And then companies will see the value of that. They will see the value of what it's like. But is this a double-edged sword, social media? Yes. Can you burn people out? Yes. My granddaddy said if you give somebody chocolate pie every day and it's their favorite food in the world and they eat it every day for 60 days, on the 61st day, he don't want any more chocolate pie. So on social media, it's no different than chocolate pie. You can only hard sell somebody so many days in a row. And then you get that thumb itch because it ain't there anymore. When your social page, I've always feel this way, I have no social media training whatsoever. I've been on a lot of calls with people that have. I was like, they say, well, how do y'all, they always ask Leanne and I, who does y'all social media? Me and her. She interacts, I create the content. Every morning over coffee, she's asking me questions, and we giving her the answers. We try our best. So we're not professionals at it. We just started playing with it. But we realized how big it is and how responsible you can be. Short bit on that is I never realized as a hunter, so this is going to go for, I want you to understand, like when you think nobody's watching, how important something can be, and always be prepared for something to be viral. Always. Because you never know. I go in a Dollar General store in Illinois. I just walk in to buy some trail camera cards because I'm hunting it on. Everybody knows me, and Leanne knows in November, it's serious around our house. It's hunting season. We're going to hunt the rut. I'm going to work. I'll work 10 months, 15-hour days, but I want to hunt in November. So I'm trying to buy these cards, and I'm in a hurry. I mean, I'm in this big deer moving. I'm like, I need these cards, but trail cameras ain't working, and there's an elderly lady in front of me. She's checking out at the store, and she's talking. And I'm talking about she's talking. And it's just me and that girl waiting on her and this lady. And I'm like, I'm just going to be honest with you. I was this close to being that prick in life where I started that, you know, the horse lip that the co-anglers give you. I call that the horse lip. When that fourth or fifth biggin hits that jig, Bobby, what do they do? Sure wish I had one of them. Well, I wish I had a lot of stuff that I don't, so just keep fishing. So I'm that guy. I'm standing behind this woman, and I'm thinking, I need to go. And then all of a sudden, the lady wearing in the cash register looks up over this old lady's head, and she smiles at me, and it's like you just took something. It's like God just slapped me. I'm talking about just face slapped me, and I'm like, oh, Lord, I'm about to be a prick. So then I got caught up, vested in the moment. So now I'm watching a young angel work with an old angel. Then I come back to reality. It ain't about deer hunting in life. It's about understanding life. This may have been the only interaction this woman had in 2 or 3 weeks. She's telling her life story. This woman waiting on her was like an angel. Never lost her, just is nice. So when I left the store, the moral of it is I'm walking in my truck and I feel about this tall. Like I feel like the biggest prick in the world. So I sit down in my truck and I made a video to say, listen, I hope as a parent that we raise our daughter to be what I just seen. And I think as parents, that should be something we wish for. That when no one was looking, this lady was an angel. I never dreamed that within 24 hours, Dollar General National was going to be trying to find my wife. Mountain Dew National was trying to find my wife. Fox News was contacting us direct. Women's World Magazine was contacting us direct. Guess what I was wearing that day? A camouflage shirt. The lesson I took away from that in life is don't be a prick behind older people because it's the only thing they have left in life, and you need to respect that. You need to respect it when you see something nice, and you need to admire it. You need to share it because we need more of that in this country, period. But when I put camo on every day, what do I think? I'm going hunting. Not ever thinking that when you put that jersey on or when I put my camo on, people will judge you that don't know you. People who don't like bass fishermen will see you in that jersey and judge you. So how you handle yourself could be a huge reflection on the industry. That camo shirt most of the time is viewed by people, I'm sure a lot of the percentage of people that might read Women's World Magazine might not agree with hunting or might not understand it. But what happened that day is I realized what a responsibility I have as an outdoorsman when I put on camo. It ain't to harvest the biggest deer. It ain't to get on Instagram and say, look at this buck I killed. He's got 400,000 points. No, the biggest thing I have as an outdoorsman is to wear that camo with pride, to make sure you represent yourself because you never know. Within a week, that video is 30 million plus views. I looked at Lynn, I'm like, whoever knew that the biggest redneck in Alabama would be on the phone with a lady from New York in Women's World Magazine talking about what I seen. So you see where I'm at in your career? You see how being relevant when you think you're not relevant? You see what telling your story when you think ain't nobody's listening? Everybody thinks your story might not be interesting. It's interesting to somebody. You know the reason so many people like Matt Robertson? Because a lot of people relate to him. I tell him I love him. People's like, he's out there. I was out there. But you know what? A lot of people can walk up to him, put their arm around and say, I got an uncle just like you, man. Got the mullet, lives it, loves it. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being who you are and telling your story, because somebody will relate to it. We've had so many powerful instances in that. I just started realizing, I told Leanne, I was like, you know, maybe professional fishing is really not about tournaments. Anybody ever thought about that? I mean, if you're gonna invest 25 years in your career and all you're gonna study is, do I have a blue trophy or a gray trophy or a red trophy? Was you in it because you loved it, or was you in it because you thought you had to prove something to the guy next to you? Professional fishing is a full-time life commitment, whether you're guiding. And I tell people this as I talk about working and the mindset, the positive mental aspect of how you handle things, not getting caught up on negativity. I said, it don't just happen in fishing. This don't just apply in fishing. When I talk positive mental attitude, I said, you can control everything. The uncontrollables, God's got. You can't worry about that. But the things I can control is how I think and how I react. And let me tell you something. If you go through life negative, you're going to be putting it off, son. You're going to be dripping negative. If you're that guy that wakes up in the morning and goes down to the ramp and done cussed out 3 people that pumped 10 at the jet pit because they cut you off, the coffee's out, you done threw that down, said something smart to the cashier, got to the ramp, run to the outhouse, backlashed the toilet paper, slammed your toe in the door, you ready to fight Satan and ain't got the boat put in the water, you beat, bro. You beat. I don't worry about that guy. I worry about that guy that nothing ever bothers him. That guy scares me. The boat could be on fire. Big Show would be like, Scroggins would always say, it's all good, Hammer. God's honest truth. It could be burning down. Big Show, we thinking, it's all good. Ain't about 4 foot. We'll stand up and flip. I'm like, this guy's got something that you can't buy. The ability to never go down the negative wagon. So one of the things I talk to people about, and I want you to really take away from this today, in controlling your destiny and where you want to be in your career, is avoiding negativity. We all know in this room that if you put a whole bunch of fishermen together, you ain't like, Atlanta housewives ain't got nothing on us. I'm going to go ahead and tell you. I mean, Jersey Shores ain't got nothing on us. They can talk some negativity. People get caught up in the politics. I'm guilty of it. I've done it. My wife's watched me serve on the board at Bass for 4 years running, and the last meeting we had, I wrote that on my notepad, and she read it when I got back to the room. She said, I'm reading your notes, and at the bottom it said resign. And I said, I did. You know why? Because I don't care about the negativity. I can't control the uncontrollables. I can't control how Bass thinks or how this guy thinks. What I have to do is take charge of my life. I can control how I react, and if I don't go down that negative road, I'm going to be a better fisherman. If I'm a better fisherman, I'm going to be a better promoter. But I'm like, if you're not careful in this industry, negativity will grab you like a big Alabama rig with 12 hooks. It'll just, whoof, and the next thing you know, you're at a table and you're like, lake sucks, fish sucks, organization sucks, payout sucks. And I'm looking at people, I'm like, we fish for a living. We fish for a living. How bad is it? I know soldiers that's in Iraq that was trying to take a poop in the sand. Now think about that. That ain't trying to be funny. Think in reality the difference of what he's trying to do to survive to what I'm trying to do to survive. How bad is it? So I got a sponsor that don't act right. So I got this that don't act right. Is it that bad? You are pursuing what you love. Enjoy it. Stay away from negativity. I've resigned from the board. Trip Weldon said, you've been voted back in again and again and again. I said, I don't want it. I said, because it makes me take away things that I don't want. I want to know the good in it. Sometimes the bad in it's what we got to avoid. Is anybody here fish with somebody like that? That's just negative about everything? See, I avoid them people at all costs. I love Bernie Schultz like a brother. But if I hang out with Bernie, I'm going to cut my wrist with a spoon. And I love Bernie. You know, I love Bernie. And I tell Bernie that. I love him. But bro, I can't do it. Because, like, I don't want to be around that. So we make a conscious effort, her and I both, to try to avoid that at all costs. We still get caught up in it. You know why? Because you're passionate about the sport. You're passionate about your business. So naturally, you're going to get caught up in it. But you kind of push back from it. People say, we'll go fishing. And we went to the Sabine, and they're like, this place sucks. I said, there's still going to be a winner. You know what I like about the tournaments that suck? If I suck, I ain't got to catch that much. See, I'm the guy that spent 10 or 15 years now trying to find the good in everything. That's my challenge to you. When you leave here today, I want you to find the good in everything before you say anything bad. If you don't take nothing else, take this home with you. No matter what you see, no matter what happens, Swindle said try to find something good before you say something bad. Try it. Then every time I want you to put a rubber band on your right wrist. And every time you think something negative, I want you to take that rubber band, I want you to pop it one time. Pop it one time. Every time negativity comes to your mind, whether it's I can't do this, I don't know what to do, I'm going to give up, pop that rubber band. Pop that rubber band. You know why? Because after a while, it's going to get to hurting so bad, you're going to quit thinking negative. Think of something positive. I've had days where I've had to double up on that like a bungee cord, like a boat tie strap. I've had them kind of days where I'm coming in, I'm like, it's not been good. But what I've learned to do is try to stay away from that, not let it affect you long term. Are there things that's going to affect us in life on and off the water? Are you going to have adversities in your life, in your personal life that can bleed over in your career? 100%. And you're going to have them a lot more than you want to. It's how can you handle that not to let it drip off on your career. Carl Jockerson asked me 2 years ago, he said, gee, I want you to help me be more consistent. He said, what's one thing you can say? I said, don't let your highs be too high, don't let your lows be too low. I said, if I can't do nothing else, Carl, I can teach you about being low. I said, if I can turn an 80th into a 60th, I'll make the classic every year. And he looked at me, I said, think about that and call me next week. Think about it. If I can turn your 80th into a 60, let me do it twice every year, I'll put you in the Bassmaster's Classic every year. Because see, when you're an 80th, it'd be a good time to say, well, ain't but 91 of us in here. I've sucked it up. This one's over. And what do? You go out on day 2, you try to do too much. You don't do your job. You do a bunch of stupid stuff. We all say the same thing, swinging for the fence. Well, dummy, the pitcher wasn't even on the mound. You're not always in a tournament you're going to win. I'm only in 1 or 2 tournaments a year that I think, honestly, I have a chance to win. Putting Bobby on the spot. Bobby, when you fish all year long, how many tournaments did you think when you walked away from that, you're honestly in your heart, you knew you should have won?
Out of the 300 I fished, maybe 15.
Why are we swinging for the fence when they ain't even on the mound? Sometimes when practice is over, you got to say, you know what? 30th this week is winning. You learn to control your lows. So in your business, you learn that it's not when the things are good. It's not when the sponsors are pouring in. It's when things are going bad and the economy starts slipping. It's how do I get below this and say, listen, before you cut me, let me show you what I can do to double down, to try to reverse where we at and see if I can help you get out of this. See, form a partnership. Form a partnership even when you're losing. Form a partnership. That's what I would teach Carl. If I can make you go out an 80th on day 2 and you move up to 60th, that's 20 points. Don't seem like much on tournament 2 till you get to that last tournament and you look at that and you go, good God, I'm in 41st. I'm 3 points inside the Classic. You're going, boy, if I just had them 20 points, I'd be a lock. See, we focus on trying to do too much instead of just maintaining the lows. That's where we get at in this industry. We want to do too much as anglers. That's a fishing statistic that I use. I tell people, control your lows. And then I realize in life, as I carry it around, no matter what happens to me personally, in my personal life, whether it's the loss of a family member or struggles at home, try to maintain your lows. Try to put a bar and say, I'm not going any lower than this. We have a rule that I only have 24 hours to be negative in a tournament. I can only be mad 24 hours. That's our rule. She'll come in the camper. She said, we talked about this early on. I would get in and she would say, well, baby, you finished 91st, but I still love you. I said, dear baby Jesus, honey, don't take this wrong. I said, you loving me ain't going to pay this houseboat. It ain't going to pay the notes. I said, you can be honest with me. You just tell me I suck. Tomorrow I'll be better. So now when I come in, she'll look at me. She'll say, I love you, but you sucked. You sucked. You know why? Because sometimes you need that reality check. You need to know that, hey, I ain't got no excuses. I don't like excuses. I preach that to my nephew Trey. We don't have excuses. You didn't get it done. Excuses are the easiest thing to find. Boy, you can make them up on the way home. You can come up with 1,000 reasons why it didn't go your way in life, or why it didn't go your way on the water, or why you didn't get that contract. We ain't making excuses no more. I'm going to make highways. I said, if you focused on building your own highway as much as you found on finding an excuse, you'd be surprised how long that road would be in life where you could have traveled. It took me a long time to get to this, because I'm telling you right now, I'm not up here preaching on the positive mental attitude because I'm good at it. I'm telling you this because I suck at it. I'm telling you because life gets us all down. I have tournaments where I think this is, I can't take another, like it's done. And I always come back to be positive. Try to find something good in it. No matter how bad the fishing is, find something good before you say something. No matter how hard it's raining, try to find something good before you say something bad. So it's been a constant challenge for me in my life to remain positive. Because if you think that today's society that we live in this world and time, don't bring things at you fast that you can't get off, you're wrong. When you leave this room, there's going to be things that happen to us that if we don't have a friendship or a partnership or accountability to us to say, hey, keep your head up, it's going to be bad. So that's what I've always tried to work on. I just didn't want to crash out too low. And I realized how easy that would be. We as men, talking from a men's perspective, we're so ego-driven, we're so prideful, but boy, I'm telling you, I've seen some really strong men and men that I respected and sometimes thought that I was super strong mentally and I couldn't be broke. And I've looked in the mirror and said, you broke. You broke mentally. You got to put it back together. So no matter how tough you think you are or where your toughness is mentally or what you think you can and cannot be faced for, things will happen to challenge that. All I'm asking you is just look in the mirror and say, I'm going to take one step at a time. I want you to reach in your car when things are bad and turn the mirror down. Not like you're putting your makeup on, turn it down. Because I told you, don't worry about looking in the mirror. I want you to look out the window where you want to go. So many people want to go through life and telling people where they've been, they forget to watch where they're going. I don't really worry about where I've been. It ain't that I don't care. I want to keep my eye on where I want to be. And where I want to be may be so far out there, I got to look ahead. But it's so easy to get caught up in life and look in that mirror and say, boy, I remember when I caught a miss and I did this. That's behind you. Where you want to be in life. Where you want to be as a business. Where do you want to be as a brand? Never sit idle. Never, ever just be like, I'm content. Contentment forms weakness. Weakness will get you beat. Push yourself. Push yourself to be better. The problem with a lot of us as fishermen, we don't fish with enough people sometimes. The other problem with that is we fish with too many people. They know where you fish and everybody gets mad. I'm a firm believer to get in a boat with somebody when you think you're kind of getting content and get you a good old whooping. I mean, you get you a good old whooping and you'll get out and go, okay, things are going to be different. Because see, you quit pushing yourself. Bobby Lane picked me up in the tournament. It's ironic that he's here. I hit a shell bar, lower unit gone. Michelle don't tell on me, gone. Bobby said, what happened? I said, hit the shell bar, she gone. He said, put your fish in here. I said, Bobby, I got 4 little ones, 1 good one. I put 4 12-inchers in there at Okeechobee and 1 7-pounder. He goes, you wasn't crapping when you said you ain't got them. I'm like, hey, that hurt. I mean, you picking me up and kicking me when I'm down. But what Bobby don't realize that day is not only did he show me the ultimate sportsmanship, back then we could fish. So I'm just going to get in a boat and ride in with Bobby. He goes, no, get your putters. He said, we're going to play ball. I said, what? He said, $1 for the first fish, $1 for the most fish, $1 for the biggest fish. I said, well, it's on. Well, I left there owing him $3. To say that Bobby Lane didn't front end me would be an understatement. But what Bobby didn't realize I learned that day is I realized that as much as I admired Bobby's flipping and what he's done, I realized Bobby's just like me. He goes down the bank at 70 miles an hour and he flips at everything out there. And I looked at that and I marveled. I'm like, me breaking down today and hitting the shell bar, knocking my lower unit off, was probably the best thing to happen to me that entire season. See, it could have been bad. I could have looked at that and said, hey, man, it's over. Just throw your fish back. But I just kept chugging along. And then I found myself in a boat with him and I'm like, he's just like me. He ain't even retied. His tackle might even look worse than mine. And what was it about him that made it? It was magical mindset and simplicity. It was just simple. So that day I took away from that, being in the boat with somebody every now and then refreshes how you think. So fish with somebody. If you feel like you're not doing something good, go fish with somebody. Work on that. If you have questions in business, ask them. Ask them. And I know I don't know where we're at on time because I don't wear a watch because I don't really believe in them. But I told Pat I wanted to open the floor up for a few questions. Whether it's business, whether it's what kind of medicine Ike and Ellie takes, I don't know. I mean, you'll have to ask Rick. But like the thing that's, the business questions of this industry are always like hush hush. And we always hear fractions and numbers of like, well, these YouTubers make this, and these YouTubers make that. I just went and started asking them. They're like, what? I was like, I'm just going to go ask them. I'm tired of hearing the rumor. And I went and asked them. They do all right, but they don't make what the rumor is. But it helped me understand where you're at. But we never ask those questions because it's kind of taboo. Now, I understand that contracts, that's confidential. But there's nothing wrong with walking up to Jacob Wheeler and saying, hey, Jacob, on your social media, do you make more on ad revenues or views? How many people in here knew that YouTube, more people make more money on ad revenues than they do views? Did you know that? I filmed with a guy, he had over 1.2 million followers. It's insane. It's called Ace Cook and Catch. All he does is walk down streams and catch crawfish and cook them. And I'm asking him, I'm like, okay, so you're getting 1 million views on every video. Basically, what do you make? He said, I make about 300,000 on my views, but I could make a whole lot more than that on ad inserts. I said, then let me get my book of life out and write this down in my phone. Because see, today I learned something. I learned that when you focused on the views, you focused on out where the money's at. But I would have never known had I don't go ask. I don't think there's anything wrong with asking questions. You're not asking his personal salary for life. You're just wanting to know what the average pay-per-view is. How many people knew in here that Facebook monetization was a real thing? Had a few of you. Do you know that Facebook monetization pays more than YouTube? Per view is higher. I have a friend that's like makes this insane amount of money on Facebook that like literally sit me down 3 years ago and said, hey, dude, you're screwing up. And I'm like, what you mean I'm screwing up? I got this. He said, are you monetized? I said, I'm baptized, but I'm not monetized. He said, you need to monetize your page. Go through the procedure, do this. I said, what kind of money are you looking at? He said, the most I've ever made is $350,000. I said, in a year? He said, no, in the month of October. I said, sweet Jesus, talk to me about what I'm doing wrong. In the month of October. I said, what's the average month? He said, 40 to 75,000. I said, so we got 9 tournaments that I can win. You see where I went? I want to win that tournament. And when I go there that week, I'm going to give every sponsor I got heart and soul. You're going to get every piece of Gerald Swindle I can get to be the best angler I can, to do the best I can to promote your product. I may fail miserably, but I can promise you it will not be without all heart and soul. But then I realized when I come home, don't take your eye off the real money. Don't take your eye off the real money. I said, this cat made more in 1 week, 1 month, than if he fished half the season and won all the tournaments. We have to utilize those resources. Let me tell you what's the great thing about that is when you utilize them, guess what you do? You take pressure off the Rick Pierce, the Mark Copleys, the Michelles. You know why? Because you're not solely depending on Mercury to pull you through. Because she's got everybody in the country. You can only house and float so many people. So I tell anglers, take care of your business, and you're going to realize you need sponsors, they need you, but you're not going to be a life threat to them. You can survive without a bait company 1 year. The smartest thing I ever did is went 1 year without a hard bait company. Everybody said, you're crazy. I said, I want to be a freestyle artist. They said, why? I said, because I just want to fish with everybody's. I've got all kind of Strike King stuff from Mark Copley. I had all kind of Rapala. I said, I just want to do it 1 year. You know why? Because when a writer asked me, I wanted to tell him why and when you should throw this crankbait. And guess what? In 1 year, the phone was ringing off the hook for people to do an interview because they knew I wasn't with anybody. So then when I made my swap and said, now I want to be family with Rapala till I die, people's like, why? I'm like, because it's the one that I settled that I like the best. See the power in the sale? Freestyle to why did you go here? So then all of a sudden the fan base is like, wait, if he says he's throwing a DT6, he's throwing a DT6. Ed Chambers that passed away at Zoom, one of the longest running paid sponsors I ever had. I was fishing the FLW championship. I got beat by John Sappington by a few ounces. He won $250,000. I won $50,000. Sucks to be framing houses. There you go. I caught him flipping a Cinco. Zoom didn't make one. I called Ed. Borrowed a phone to call him at home and said, hey, I'm on camera flipping this bait and we don't sell one. He said, it's fine. I said, you sure? He said, I don't make one. I said, Ed, are you sure? And he told me something I never will forget. He said, son, if you lie today, you'll never, ever have a value to Zoom. Because no matter what you say, they'll never believe you. What an impact that made in 1999. If you lie today, they will never believe you. He's dead and gone now. Every time I get in that situation where I'm fishing something that's not my sponsors, I ain't going to lie about it. Now, I'm not going to get on stage and scream a different lure company, but I will not shy away from it when I said I threw a different brand crankbait. Because your brand is what you're selling. You are the business. If you damage that business, then you damaged yourself for long term, and your sponsors and your fan base is going to be the key. You do not have to have 300,000 to 800 million followers to be an asset to a company to sell lures. Trust me. I know guys that's got 10 or 15,000 on YouTube that they'll make $2,000 to $3,000 a month on their royalties selling baits for companies. Now think about that. Guys got 10 or 15,000 followers, but making $2,500 a month by just bonuses selling. So you don't have to have this giant following to make that kind of money. Is there any other question? Has somebody else had their hand up? Because see, y'all didn't know I was going to step up and wear my ostrich skin boots today. They done told me I couldn't tell any jokes. I couldn't tell no poop stories, which I got several. And every one of y'all sitting in here looking around like, what? If you're an outdoorsman and you've never had a poop story in your life, then you're not an outdoorsman. If you've never stopped at the Waffle House and hung off the side of a Phoenix, you ain't a friend of mine. And I see people on TikTok going to the back of the boat right now and standing there, and I said, see, honey, that's a rookie. That is a rookie. Done backed up on them power poles. I said, why you want to get in that position when you could just sit on the side and hold the shifter? See, I said, I'm an old G, that's a young G. They looking for a way to poop. I have mastered pooping. And see, you know why? Because I don't never quit selling them dude wipes. People ask me, I said, I got them with me everywhere I go. I don't never quit. I mean, I walk in the Waffle House, I'll make it rain. I'll pull out a 100-pack and throw it down and just tell the waitress, bring what you got. Give me 2 cups of grease. I'll fight it all off. You know. So I tell people all the time, I say, if you think an outdoorsman don't have an interesting life, you should hang out with him. You've never been 25 foot high in a stand and them pains hit you, them tummy bubbles, you know what I'm talking about? When you get that chicken skin and you lock up with both elbows, driving home from the restaurant. Y'all know what I'm talking about, where you can't even hit the turn signal, where you just like, it never fails. I mean, you get that chicken skin, you're like, this guy, it's happening. The offense is jumping off sides. There ain't a referee here. You ain't never lived. You've been 25 foot high in a big blah, blah, pine, and I look like a gray squirrel coming down. It's just bark and safety belt and binoculars, and when it's over, it's like you just lay out there like you need a cigarette, and I don't even smoke. I'm just like, whoo! My wife thought the first 6 years we was married, I just wore 1 sock. I said, no, honey. That's God's honest truth. I'd buy T-shirts with pockets on them. She said, why you buy them ugly T-shirts with pockets on them? I said, you'll figure it out one day. Get yourself in a hockey game when you ain't bought a ticket to get in. That pocket is a small price to pay for freedom. I can tell you. So I always tell people, you see the glimmer and the hope and the fantasy part of fishing when you watch the Bassmaster shows and all the TV shows, because we only show the highlights. We only show the guys when they're catching them. You don't show the other 91 over there sucking it up that day. Can't cast. I've had days where I couldn't hit in the water if I fell out. If I fell in the lake, I'd land on the stick, jab both eyes out, be done. You know what I mean? You're done. So you don't show that. And I tell people, I said, sometimes you just want people to know that behind all that, the jersey and the color and the sponsors, there's a lot of struggles. There's a lot of struggles that you'll never see. I mean, you don't know what it's like to run up on an island at Lake Norman repeated times with a stomach virus. It ain't good. The guy said, where's all these waypoints? I said, places to go to the bathroom. He said, I thought they were bedding fish. God's honest truth, I finished second. I said, nah. I said, I've had the flu and food poisoning for 2 days. I said, I won't have to poop all day long. And I said, these are my exit points. But when you get on stage, they're talking to, well, sir, you almost won. Tell us about your day. And I'm thinking, if you just only knew, I ain't got no draws on. But all you seen was the sponsors and the logos and how good it looked on TV. So I'm telling you, as you push through your career and you carve your way in life and you try to figure out where you want to be, there's going to be some unpleasantry. Laugh about it. Laugh at yourself about it. You stumbled. You stumbled. You didn't wreck. You just stumbled. So laugh at yourself. I'm the first one to come in and say, hey, if I make a mistake, I'm going to laugh at myself. The journey to the top will never, ever be pretty. because there's rocks in the way. There's craters, there's caves, there's things that you can't see. So if you think you want to climb this mountain in life and win at life itself, and you want to be that guy, if you think you're not going to have some skint knees, skint elbows, tough times, heartaches, tears, and heartache, ain't going to happen. I want to see how you react. I want to see what happens when you fall down. That's where the winner comes from. That's where the champion in life comes from, is when you fall down and things happen. Who stands back up and dust off and said, you got me. You got me today, life, but tomorrow I'll be back. Damar Hamlin, you watched him win the game of life. The game of life. So you think this, and I'll leave you with this. You think, you put that jersey on, you see people, they know who you are. You're recognized. You never realize when you watch that game, you see those jerseys, you see those players' names on the back, you automatically know who that is. You know who the MVP was that day? Some guy on the sideline wearing a shirt that probably people have been pushing out of the way. He didn't have his name on it. He didn't have a number on it. But when he got pushed down and they needed him, what did he do? He rung the bell. And guess what? Nobody knew who he was. There will be people in this room that set career records that right now today, there might be nobody out there that where you're going is going to know who you are till you get there. But that day, you've seen somebody rise from nowhere when everybody else needed help. And he's the same guy. You know they pushed him out of the way. Get out of the way, medic. Move the whole game until they needed him. A lot of us feel that way about the good Lord. You know, I'm pretty guilty of that. You get struggling in them tournaments. You ever notice that when you get a big one on, everybody gets religious? Oh, sweet baby Jesus, dear God, let him get in. Then you break him off. You're like, oh, son of a... You're like, we can't have it both ways. My wife said, you went from here to here. Just that quick. Line break, she said, you got to edit it all out. I said, when you get them big ones on, everybody gets down, oh, sweet baby Jesus, don't let him jump. I'm like, boy, it's funny when them old big ones get on. You start quoting the scriptures in the Bible. You've been trying to remember what Jesus said, just don't let him jump. I'll leave you with this. Let's have fun in an industry. Let's always remember that we're all here for one reason, because we love to fish. I said it when I won AOY. There's something that brought every one of y'all here today, whether you wanted to improve your guide business, your sales business, your fishing business. You came here because you love one thing. You love a fish. You love the art of fishing. And the most beautiful thing I can tell you about fishing that nobody ever talks about, you know they say a bass can't see color, right? Most of the time they say, this is going to be a little deep. I feel that same way above the water. He don't care what color you are, where you come from, or what you do. Fish don't care. We're in the greatest sport in the world. That fish that we're chasing does not care where you come from. He does not care what color you are. He does not care that you come from poverty. He don't care. That's why we're all here, because that fish brought all of us together. I've told people this over and over. You can give me a fishing rod and a Rapala sticker or a Mercury Marine sticker and take me anywhere in the country. Let me pull into Pontotoc, Mississippi, where you got a pistol in both pants pockets, and let somebody roll up there and say, you been fishing? I don't care where we at right then. He's my brother. You know why? Because he knows what that sticker means, and he's held that rod and reel. That's the difference in bass fishing and any other sport in the world. None of us has ever run into Dale Jr. down there at the Jet Pet and go, how's she doing in turn 7? Was she loose? Yeah, my wife's Camry does that. She gets high. You know why? Because you never drove the car. Because you don't feel what he feels. But you can walk up to me or Bobby Lane. You can walk up. You walk up to Kyle and say, how was it, dude? First year in the Opens, you almost made the Elites. I was right out there with you. You know why? Because he felt what he felt. It's there. Most of us have never been on the NFL. We'll never know what it's like to dunk over 7 people. But you roll up and see somebody got a kayak sticker, and I'll be like, man, they biting out there on Gunnersville. See, we crossed a boundary that no people can get to that quick. No matter what the media tells you, we crossed a boundary that you can't, there ain't a bridge to get over it fast enough. Because that one fish brought us together. That's why you're here today. So I always tell everybody, respect the fish, respect what you do, respect yourself, love what you do. Do not be afraid to laugh at your shortcomings. Learn from your failures. Don't quit because of your failures. I'm a prime example. If failure should have broke anybody, it should have broke me. My wife will tell you I'm the most stubborn individual in the world. I said, I'm willing to work twice as hard as anybody out there. I'd work twice as hard as Kevin Van Dam to be average. Whew. To be average. Most people say, I don't want to work that hard unless I can be the best. I was willing to work that hard just to have a career, just to be average. See, you got to work knowing that you may not win every tournament. Think about that. Work to be average, because average, you don't know where that's going to be. Average, it just may be a platform for you to play on. I've met people in this room that I'm sitting there looking around, I'm going, fishing started out as your platform, but it may not be where you do the greatest things in this world with. This just may be the platform that got you to get in front of that opportunity. I'm sure when you started, you had no vision that this is where you were going to be. Pat, you didn't know. The sport of fishing provided you with a platform, and all of a sudden you look around and go, I got a different platform. And I've told my wife this. My platform in life has kind of changed. I said, I never dreamed that I'd be a public speaker. I cuss too much. The first thing my wife says, she said, you love Jesus, but you cuss a lot. I got to get you out of that. I never dreamed I'd be a public speaker because I never public spoke. I never dreamed I'd be a motivational speaker. I never dreamed that I would have a bracelet that said PMA that would change somebody's life to make them bring you a story that makes you break down and cry, that makes my wife cry. I never dreamed I'd have a PMA bracelet that somebody put on and brought me the bullet and put it in my hand instead of had it to my head. And I've held it for 2 years to give it to you because I ain't going to do it. See, fishing become a platform. It's a business. It provided me with something I never thought I would see. How can a redneck have somebody come to a show and hand him a bullet? You think it didn't change his life? It changed mine. Because then I had a new perspective of where I was and what my responsibility was then to give back. First, early on in your career, Pat, you just want to take. I gotta take. Michelle, I need props. I need this. I need that. You take it because you're trying to survive. There's going to be a time in your life where you're thinking pinnacles and you start spinning around and you say, what do I need to do to be better? You need to give back. And I'm not talking about take $100,000 to give to somebody. I'm talking about just do something nice. Give back. Learn your talent. Put on a class where you can help people. Kyle, I love Kyle. Kyle's a young upcoming stud angler. He's come and stayed at my house. He knows how I live. Very country. And him and I have talked about that. As he aspires and his career grows, Kyle's going to come to the point where it's time to give back. Bobby Lane does it. He takes kids fishing. He does kids tournaments. That's the responsibility. The platform that I had has changed, and I'm blessed. Whether I ever catch another bass, I probably should never say this in front of paying sponsors, whether I never take that classic trophy home, whether I never touch that blue trophy, if I left today and went home and they said, take that jersey off, you're done fishing, I'd put my t-shirt on and I'd go fishing. Because I never started for the colors of the jersey. I started fishing because I loved it. So it didn't change the heart of who I was. It just changed where I was going. So I tell people that. I said, when you truly love it, you can never quit it. It's something that's going to always be in you, and you will learn to do different. I know I run a little over. I want to thank you guys for having me out. Pat, I know I went over. Sorry.